If you want to get started drawing with ink, here's 3 different types of brushes or pens that you can use to create your first ink drawings. The first one is a nib pen, and they can come in different line sizes. And generally, these will run you a few bucks. You'll see them at your Hobby Lobby, and you see these have very different, even within these different nibs, you can get them in different sizes. I'm just going to ink this so you can see the output of what it looks like. Okay, so with this one you can see nib pens will give you very consistent lines, very even lines. And the other thing when you're just starting out is they're pretty easy to control because you don't really have to worry so much about how hard you're pressing on the nib. It'll give you these real consistent lines, and I can press, pretty hard on this and it'll give me a little bit difference, but it's not that big of a difference. But still good option. It just depends on what kind of line weight, what kind of line you're looking for. Okay, now let's talk about a quill pen. A quill dip pen is similar to a nib, but with the dip pen, you're going to get a lot more variation on the line depending on how much pressure you put on and at the angle you're holding the nib. So let's do one, so it can be very light, but on the second one, if we press harder, or we adjust the angle, it can get real heavy. Be careful here. And so see how much variation with the same nib depending on my angle. Let's try inking this with a nib or with a dip pen, see how it goes. I've smudged this. That is one of the things with a dip pen is the ink is slower to dry because it can collect on the paper. It doesn't come out as evenly as with a nib pen. So this sort of stuff can happen. You got to be real careful, otherwise you can kind of mess up your art. This is where you really want to have some good whiteout available. But look at how much kind of more organic the lines are. There's just a lot more just subtlety to them. If you're looking for something that looks a bit more organic, that has some more kind of expressiveness to it, a dip quill pen is a great option. So brushes are going to have the most variety for your drawing. Now look at how thin this line can get. Look at that. Or we can vary it in just by applying subtle pressure, but it takes a lot of practice. Or if you really just want to apply the pressure, you can just go whom. Start doing like real subtle hatching with a brush. So there's a lot you can do with a brush, and it can look fantastic, but so much of it depends on how much pressure and the angle you're holding your brush at that takes a lot more practice than kind of any of the other options here. Let's try this here. There's the brush work, and you can see just the difference here is there's a very, the line will change a lot in width. Just by changing the pressure of the way you're holding it, you can just get some really interesting textures. It's very easy to come in and just block out large shapes of black, and then kind of do some hatching with the brush, brush hatching. It looks great. Generally, got to be careful. See, I smudged here, so that's an area where you got to kind of pay attention or come through with whiteout. But the line looks very distinct with the brush. It's going to look different. You're not really going to be able to duplicate it with either a dip pen or especially like a marker. So my favorite is the brush, but really it's up to you. I would go with the Pentel Pocket Brush. It's the easiest to get started, and you can use it for very professional looking work. So these are the 3 different pens that I would recommend for getting started with inking. They're easy to find. You can get them at just about any art store or online. But maybe you have a different pen that you're wondering about, or maybe you have a different pen that you love to ink with. And if so, leave a comment, or if you have a question about dip pens, nib pens, or brush, go ahead and leave a comment and ask. If you want to see more of my inking or tips on drawing with pen and ink and even creating comics, subscribe to my channel. I post pretty regularly, or just leave a like. We'll see you when we're doing some more inking.